All right, hey folks, today we are going to do kind of an extended deep dive into AgentKit by OpenAI. This is one of their Dev Day announcements, and it is kind of a neat concept. It's essentially a canvas that you can use to build agents, and with that you can connect to external data, can connect it to MCP, servers. You can also deploy it via ChatKit, which they mention here. So really these three features: an agent builder, connector registry, and ChatKit. You can also create widgets that allow deploying like miniature UIs into the chat experience. It's a really cool concept, and you can imagine how it would all work together very nicely. OpenAI announced this at Dev Day. I'm not sure if it's specifically ready for production yet. I didn't see anything that says it's still in beta. They also bragged about having created this in 6 weeks end to end. Really impressive, and I love that they shipped it, but it's pretty bad right now. There's so many rough edges. It almost feels like they're disrespecting my time as a software developer. It's hard to use. It doesn't work. There's bad error messaging, and I compliment them for creating the product and getting it out into the world. And part of doing that and shipping it fast and early is to get feedback from users then. So I am going to levy some complaints here, and they're well-meaning. I want this to be a product. I want it to succeed. It's a really cool concept, and I could see how it would be useful. So I'm going to do my part here as a potential user and provide that feedback. The format for this is we're going to go into the agent builder. We're going to try creating a couple agents. I'm going to use that to call out some things that I think are not working particularly well right now, as well as raise some questions about just why they're approaching it the way that they're doing. We will deploy some agents, we'll do some testing with them, and then we'll try to integrate it into the ChatKit starter kit that they provide, and we will show some of it working, some of it not. We'll see how far we can get. This is going to be recorded live and then trimmed into a video afterwards. So if I flash any of my API keys, hopefully I can edit it out before it makes it to YouTube and Twitter. All right, so let's jump right in. Here we have the agent builder. It's part of your platform in OpenAI, and we will create a brand new one. So you can create an agent, and really this exposes everything that you can do in the API with an agent. So you can choose the specific model that you're using. You can add tools, even a client tool, which means kind of in the UI of if you were deploying it with ChatKit. You can define an output format. We'll come back on this in a minute. Different verbosity, summary, etc., and then some additional configurations. So this part is pretty interesting. We are going to start with a really basic agent that uses no external tools. We just want to create a classification agent. And by that, I mean we're going to do a sentiment analysis. And one thing, so you can add these instructions here. You can also add additional user messages, so that's pretty neat, which maybe we should do that. So we'll do an assistant message here. Instead of typing it ourselves, we're going to use the prompt creator here, and we're going to say, and we're going to create these instructions. Off to the side here, I'm going to be making notes because this is something that I want to work. Okay, so we have some really basic instructions here, and now we're going to add in context of the user message. So that's the workflow input as text, I believe. I think this just comes into the workflow as the conversation from the user. And for that, that's it. So we're now going to do a test, and I'm going to say, maybe a hot take, the new Taylor Swift album was great, and we're gonna get a sentiment analysis response back. Okay, this is interesting. It's asking, so the reasoning here is I need to create a JSON object that includes the reasoning and the classification. That's really interesting. We didn't ask for that at all. We got the reasoning. We have a classification. That's good. That's all right. So the next thing that I would want to do here as a developer is create a structured output here. I don't know why okay, so the prompt is bigger. So there's more to the prompt. Okay. Yeah, think step by step. So this is useful. So we have reasoning, we have classification, and then we have some examples here. So it did a really nice job, thumbs up. It does a nice job creating the initial system prompt. I will give them that. But the next thing we want to do then is create the JSON schema, a response schema, and we'll add classification and reasoning here. I wonder, let's try generating it. My system prompt. This is going to be one of my big complaints, is there are a couple places you can use AI to generate parts of the agent definition, but they don't have context of the rest. Yeah, so what did this generate here? Supported keywords, unsupported keywords, examples, requirements. So what's going on here is this generating the structured output doesn't have an understanding of what the instructions are. Like, that just feels like a huge oversight to me, and obviously that's something that the team can fix, but I'm calling it out, is that if we're going to have the ability to generate things like this around the agent, it should have the entire context with it. It feels like just an obvious oversight to me. This is me being complaining, but it feels like an oversight where you probably haven't really tried to use the product as a user. That might be being ungenerous. Okay, so let me review the instructions here. We have to manually create the schema now because we want the schema to match the instructions, and there's clearly no connection between the two. So we want reasoning and classification. We'll add those properties here. Make sure, nice, you can kind of see my GitHub personal access token. I'll have to remove that after this, but can't see the full value. Okay, so the classification, okay. So we now have our agent. It's now going to output as a JSON schema, I believe. That's my understanding here. So maybe I should take a step back. I'm coming into this fresh. I have not used this a ton. I'm sure some of my complaints are just going to be user errors. So we'll get that out of the way at the beginning. And if it is, I apologize in advance for not understanding how the product was set up. Okay, so we have an output schema. We have instructions. We're going to preview. We'll do a preview here. We'll keep using this as an example. We're just doing the sentiment analysis. All right, cool. So we got JSON back directly in the response. One of my big questions is, how do I use this JSON for future steps? I think this is literally just text back in the message, and maybe that's because of how the agent works. I'm not sure. It's unclear. But I'll tell you why this matters. So let's say that we're classifying this response and then we want to do something else with the response based on whether it's good, bad, or neutral. I just added an if-else statement. That should be our flow control here. So let's do if good. Okay, output parsed classification equals. I'm willing to change my mind. I was not able to get this to work earlier, but we'll see. Okay, maybe it's the way it needed to be connected, if bad. Classification. I think it's really interesting that they are using the common expression language here, which I think is fine. I think it's a totally reasonable choice. It does raise questions in my mind about who the audience is. Use common expression language, use more, and if you click the learn more, you get these comparators, which yeah, if you're a developer, this is all makes sense. But if you're a non-technical business user, input.metadata bracket quote region, I don't know if you're going to understand what that is. ChatGPT, of course, could help. You have the cel.dev, which is a technical documentation site. Reasonable choice. I think that makes sense, but it makes me, again, wonder who the audience is. All right, so let's add an agent. And we want to do something different, whether it is good or bad. So we're adding agents. We should also do an else case, I guess. So my understanding is we could do the sentiment analysis based on how it's classified. We can then output. Let's say, tell me, we're gonna do this because I want to know what the model's receiving. So this, we can add functionality to the agent afterwards, but this is just a good test. Let's do a preview and say, this UI is really cool. We can see which part of the process it's in. So it's doing the sentiment analysis. Now it's doing if else. Okay. Nice. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to close that. So this is a live recording, and my reaction is genuine here in that I couldn't get that to work earlier. The classification in a different workflow did not properly route in the if else. So it seems to be working this time. I'm not sure what I was doing wrong before. I can actually show my post. Pull this onto the screen, hopefully. Here, see. Oh, that's not going to work. You know, so I had posted, you know, I couldn't get this if else to work, and clearly it's, you know, input output text. I was just using the wrong value. So that's the answer here. We'll let that live. I like to be accountable if I'm doing something dumb. All right, so what was my issue there then? So I'm curious, what was I running up against? Input.output text. So I was obviously getting the wrong value, but I couldn't get it to output the JSON properly to connect it. So anyways, so this does work. This is something that I thought was going to be a sticking point, but actually was user error, which we will always own up to. So response schema, that's cool. We got the JSON out of that. There we go. So we now have a basic classification agent, and we can see that it took a proper path. Oh, we gotta delete that. Dismiss. And I just think this is a super nitpick. Just interesting to see the color choices, that's all. So let's remove that. What was our preview result? Excuse my typo. Great, so then we got the middle path there. This agent activated, and it was categorized as bad. We were able to navigate down that path. So, you know, I'll change my tune here. This works nicely. This is an agent that has a clear value, like a classification is something that is quite valuable, and then you could do additional actions off of it. It's working nicely. I previously was just using the if else wrong. Let's see if I can recreate what I did wrong. So I'm just curious. So obviously if we switch that to text, nice. So another good indicator here is it is providing that feedback of this no longer exists. Let's see. Yeah, so we could do it directly as a string. That would be another way to make the classification work. Let's try switching this to JSON. Add the schema. And I think it's nice they allow you to add an enum. So let's do classification. Good, neutral, date. Let's see if we can get this working. If good, well, that's not what I meant to do. I mean, I would, oh, well, that was, whatever I just did right there is why I got an error previously, I think. Cool. All right, so I will update my opinion on this. This works nicely. You are able to get JSON out. You can map that JSON into the common expression language formulation here, and then you're off to the races. So consider that an updated opinion. All right, let's do the next thing. Let's move on to an agent that now uses external tools. So I am going to do a little bit of cleanup here. Let's change this to be a calendar agent. We will just delete this and say, and the user message will be just the same. We can add that as context. We are going to switch back to a text output. And now we are going to look at adding additional tools. So one thing that I'm unsure about is there's two ways to add tools, and I don't know which is the right way to do it. So do you add it here and then connect them? Let's add a Google Calendar. And what this is going to do is it's going to pop up this Auth 2.0 playground for Google developers. And like, again, this is fine. Like, this is a good way to ship a product and get out the door, but I'm confused about why it doesn't use the ChatGPT OAuth connection in the first place. And these tokens expire. So let me, by the time we get here, by the time I've posted this video, this token will have expired, I believe. But if you are able to get in here. So anyways, we want to create a calendar connection. It's giving me this OAuth playground. And now I have to come in here and select all of the permissions that I want. And I don't know which ones I want. So I'm just going to select all of the calendar available ones. And then we are going to authorize. We are going to approve that. We are going to give the playground access to those. And now we have this authorization code, and we are going to exchange it for an access token and a refresh token. I don't know what that was. But one thing here is that this is going to expire in an hour. Great for me because I'm recording this live and I'm showing you my access token. But how am I supposed to use this with like a deployed agent? Like the MCP servers here feel totally disconnected from how you would actually use the agent builder. Like the agent builder, and you want to deploy it as in the ChatKit, which we haven't touched on yet, but I think the value here is you can create these agents, you can deploy them with ChatKit, but some of these intermediate pieces just wouldn't work. Like why would you connect a Google Calendar MCP to that in the first place? If I'm creating this for personal use, that's pretty neat, but then the deployment doesn't work quite as well as you'd want it to, and this access token is going to expire in an hour. So this Google MCP server, the way it's built in, maybe there's a way I can change how this auto refresh the token before it expires. Let's do that. I don't know if that'll work correctly or not. So anyways, we're going to add that access token. We don't need that. Don't even get me started on these 1Password logins. Everything you click on here is going to pop this up. And I know that happens because 1Password is kind of aggressive about saving stuff. But literally everything that we click on this is going to pop this open. Like I can't even edit these events without 1Password coming up. And like that's not a big deal, but you just need to add like an attribute on here that says don't let the password managers provide suggestions. Okay, so that's a complaint that I have written down. It's just one of those things that like if you're a user, you're going to see this immediately and know that you just got to add the one little thing that connects to this. And I'm sure they could have Codex do that. All right, so we have the MCP server. We added it as a tool, and we did that because we saw it as a tool over here. What I don't know, though, is how to use this tool properly. So we're getting an error on this connection status. MCP requires input.event IDs, but calendar agent doesn't provide event IDs. MCP requires input.calendar ID, but it also doesn't provide it. And then we get these like nested JSON definitions, and I have no idea what to do with this. So again, connection status is invalid. My only option is to delete this. And I don't know, do I need data in here? Maybe I need a set state. Again, oh my God, this is everywhere. Like I can't even edit this stuff because because of 1Password. So let's sit with this a second longer. Let's figure out what the connection issue is here if we can. So let's delete this connection. Let's see if we can set state to variable, add variable. Let's call this calendar ID. I cannot type an uppercase on this name. It's interesting. Calendar ID, and I don't mind showing my personal calendar. Oh, but I don't have a way to get my calendar ID from here. Okay, so I don't know how to get my calendar ID. Maybe it was in the OAuth here somewhere. No, I'm not seeing it. Maybe it is. Again, this is probably user error. But either way, so let's recap what we did here, and then I'll show you like the path that is working. Is we added an MCP server tool. We set it to be this Google Calendar, which is apparently created and maintained by OpenAI. Doing that, the path that they give you is they tell you to add an access token from this playground. That access token is going to expire in an hour. So if you're going to use this agent for an hour, that's fine. But if you're going to use it for longer than that, you're going to run into refresh errors. And then once we created that tool, connecting it to the agent pops up an error. So I think I'm just using this wrong. That's what's going on here. I have no other explanation for it except that these MCP tools are not meant to be used in the way that I'm trying to use them. I don't know how else you would use them. I don't know. Can we connect it here? That's interesting. So we can connect it there. Let's just try running this. Yeah, schema mismatch. So yeah, we can't run it. That makes sense. All right. So we're going to delete that. We're going to delete these. The way that I did get the calendar to work is by adding a tool here. Again, it's fine that the tools are here. I just don't know why they're also here. Like I don't know what the difference is. But we can add this hosted MCP server. We go through the same exact flow. I'll actually just use that same access token. And now we can connect it as a tool, and we can close our endless 1Password pop-ups. I am not worried. Look at that. Even just clicking this drop-down is triggering that. I've never had this happen on another application. Anyways, so great stuff here. We can add a name description. The UI is beautiful. We can add in our token. We've already done that. We never want to have approval. And then we have these tools. And one thing I want to call out here is in this Google Calendar tool, it does not have the option to create an event. You can read events, you can fetch them, get profiles, search for events, but no option to create an event. That's something I would want to use this MCP server for. And I understand that they are trying to avoid the lethal trifecta. Like they don't want to be able to exfiltrate data via creating an event or abuse that in some way, but it dramatically limits the value of whatever agent I can create here. I think they'll change that over time. Once again, close our 1Password login. So our instructions are now use the calendar's connection. Here's the user input. Here's our tool. This should work. Events on Friday. And we'll give that a second to run. So you can see that it some pros here. It does know the current date. It knows the next Friday is October 10th. It's then able to use that search events tool and respond to that. And we get some really nice reasoning traces here that we can click into and see. That's nice. We've got a response ID. That's useful for debugging, I imagine. And then we get the calendar events. Great. That works really nicely once you know where to go add the tool. Let's take this up a notch and introduce a new layer to this. Reminder, OpenAI announced 3 things with the agent kit. We have an agent builder, the connector registry, and then ChatKit. We've looked at agent builder and connector registries so far, but we have not looked at ChatKit. ChatKit is a combination of a few different pieces. My best way to articulate it is ChatKit is they explain it's a batteries included way to add AI into something. So this is cool. We have this nice world. We can chat with the world using this, and all of these components and interactions are provided by OpenAI in some way. Let's pull up the ChatKit docs. So ChatKit, build and customize an embeddable chat with ChatKit. Best way to build agentic experiences, whether you're building an internal knowledge assistant, HR, onboarding helper, customizable chat embed. So this is neat. It's really cool. What I imagine in an ideal scenario is you're a non-technical user. You can create an agent and then you like a Zapier. Somebody that would use Zapier. They could create an agent and then they could embed it on their website using ChatKit. That was my initial thought, but then they show you this embed ChatKit in your front end. And so we have a developer client integration, a developer server that's hosted for initializing it, OpenAI hosted. It makes sense that you need this level of complexity. Like you can't embed an AI service on your front end with full permissioned API keys because then you're going to have issues. So you need this. It needs to be this complicated. This is probably the minimal amount of complication you can have, but it means that the target audience is probably more technical for ChatKit, which is fine. But if you're building with ChatKit, why wouldn't you just use something that gives you more control? And we'll circle back on that control piece in a little bit. So here's how it works. Create the agent workflow, set up ChatKit in your product, which takes a couple of steps, build and iterate, and you have like a really nice chat UI, batteries included. So you can end up with a product like this. One thing that I think is particularly neat about ChatKit is how you can customize it. You can go into this playground and create any sort of UI customization. Let's say we want a red accent, maybe a pink accent. We can make fonts bigger, smaller. We can customize all the UI here. And then there's some stuff where we can add a model picker, which allows us to do different GPT-5 models. We can do a persona, so crisp, clear, chatty. We can add in additional tools. That's all really neat. Like I love this as a UI builder. The thing that's killing me though is like, it's all toggles. Where is the chat window that I can just tell it what I want it to look like? I think that's missing everywhere in this. Like you're telling me the #1 chatbot company does not have a built-in chat builder for their UI customization? Last thing I want to call out here is once you're done customizing the UI here, then you can just copy paste this code. You have to configure some API stuff, and then you should be able to integrate it. So this seems pretty neat overall. Like I think you get a lot of value out of this if everything was working together. This is probably the part that I'm the most excited about. So you can customize the whole container of the UI. And the other thing you can do is you can create these really beautiful widgets. These are widgets that can be used in conjunction with tool calls in the agent experience. And they look really nice. Like the default UI, the design language that they're using for these, it very much reminds me of Apple products, and it just fits in nice. So we have this option to add to calendar. Like this whole widget has these actions then that can be taken as well. What I want to call out though is that, again, the defaults here is the calendar agent does not have, the calendar agent doesn't have a tool. Oh, we're moving on. Tools, where? Oh, it's in my draft, excuse me. Our calendar agent, if we look at the tools, it has no option to create a calendar event. So there's this beautiful widget for adding something to a calendar, and it's just not a capability that's built in. A minor gripe for sure. So anyways, these widgets are beautiful. You can create a widget. I believe I've created a couple of them. I created one for adding something to a calendar, which is completely useless, at least without a custom MCP server. And then we have this one for displaying the events in a day. This is really neat. And the way that this worked is we just used the prompt builder here and said, and this will take a little bit. This takes a surprising amount of time to run. Like it's clearly GPT-5 high thinking or something. The output will look like this though. So we can create these widgets and we can embed them in our experience. Let me clear some of these. And the way this works then is we can associate them with a given tool call. So I'm going to click this widget, and you can either create the widget, which will link you out to the studio, or you can upload. I think it's a very interesting choice. We're going to upload the day's event widget. Now we can see that here. There's no way to pull them in directly from your studio. Yeah, interesting choice there. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's got a nice UI definition, really cool. I love this. We can now update that tool, and if we go back to our preview, we can say, all right, it will now use that calendar MCP. It should use that batch search or batch read, and I believe it will display the UI correctly. Let that run for a second. Nice. Okay. So this is the beginning of all of the problems that had me hitting my head against the keyboard as a developer. What do you mean you tried to access Google Calendar but couldn't access it? We literally just did this. Okay, so let's double check. Did we somehow get rid of this token? I don't know. It says redacted. We're just gonna copy paste the same one back in there. We're gonna hit preview. We're getting a lot of reasoning. That's cool. Now we have the events. What happened? Something about the MCP connection did not persist my credentials, apparently, which is fine. So I guess maybe the update. So I updated the tool, and then it cleared my credentials. Okay, so that must be something there. User error, or whether just updating it is an issue. Here are the events. But I want to try and get to use the UI. We're leading the witness a little bit here. We're using batch read. I keep doing that. I know that's a user error, but I keep clicking go back. Okay, batch read. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can put it in there. Maybe search events. That's probably what we need to have it on. Days events. Okay. So let's try this. So here we go. I am updating the widgets only on this MCP tool. I have not clicked or changed anything on the API key. We're gonna click update, we're gonna do preview, and we're gonna see if that actually clears the authentication. Yeah, that's interesting. So adjusting the MCP configuration, I almost clicked that again. I misclicked. So changing the tool configuration, any of the configuration, I have to re-add this authentication token. Okay, so that's good to know. Is just changing that will impact it. Now let's do, I have that written down as one of the things that I would want to document and share is that's just something that shouldn't happen. That's part of the rough edges in the experience that make this whole thing not work. The idea is great. There's so many delightful parts of the execution, but there is paper cut after paper cut after paper cut that just adds up and makes it non-functional right now. I think that's my overall assessment. And I hope that OpenAI will fix these. I'm sure they will. And that's why I entered the conversation here with, I'm proud of the team for shipping. I think that's the right thing to do. Now there's a bunch of paper cuts they got to fix, and I'm trying to provide some helpful feedback, some critical feedback that'll hopefully be helpful in them fixing them. Okay, so we have now, okay, there we go. So it hung the first time. I don't know if it had a faulty response or something. Yes. Interesting. I thought I was able to get it. Search is different than search events. Okay, now that part was user error. I just want to show this widget. Surely if we just put the widget on everything, eventually we will land on one that is working. Days events, and because we're going to make a change here, we need to reset this auth token for some reason. Preview. Okay, just a total fail. Maybe I'll just jump to this in the video, do a jump cut to this. I think this is supposed to display a UI. I'm sure I had it displaying a UI earlier, but I'm just not able to get it to work. This is supposed to display the widget, I believe. So all that hype and for nothing. This is clearly using the tools. It's just summarizing. Is there something else that I just keep clicking that. Tools. We've set the widgets, it's used the widgets. I don't know why that's not working. I wonder if I just broke it there. Okay, so the next thing is we are going to change the name of this to be Calendar Agent Live Demo. And we're gonna publish this. So we have an agent that has access to our calendar, supposedly. We're gonna click publish. And now we're going from a draft workflow to a version 1. This is now in production. We have a workflow ID. It provides us a way to either pin a version, add allowed domains, create a workflow, tag the workflow, and then also use it with Agents SDK. So hypothetically, we can actually deploy this into an agent experience. Let me pull up this. We're going to do off screen because I do not want to flash my OpenAI API key. That one I'm a little more worried. So the next thing we're going to look at here is we can look at the end example. They have a great starter kit, or I believe would be a great starter kit. ChatKit starter kit, there we go. So they have this starter kit that you can get started with, and all you have to do is set up the OpenAI API key and then a workflow ID. It looks like a customizable API-based URL. And then you can run a Next.js app that will use the agent to power the chat experience. And it's just a cool concept. Let me run that. You can see I was using Claude to help debug some of the issues here. I'm not being super helpful, honestly. That's just what that warning is. We'll ignore that for now. I haven't changed too much of the actual code. So we get this ChatKit experience. We'll say hi, and we'll see what we get back. I have set the workflow ID correctly. We're running it. We just get nothing. This is where some of my complaints with the whole experience mount. You can ignore this hydration error. I don't think that should be impacting us. But we have an on-response start, an on-response end triggered. We do get an API callback. And if we look in the code, there is also this on-error handler, and we're trying to just log out the on-error. But we're not getting it in the front end. We're not getting it in the back end anywhere. And it's clearly erroring out, but it's not providing any information about why. I wonder why it's 404ing on the logs. Maybe there's user error there. It could be. I've done very minimal modification to this besides adding some logs. And let's actually just revert these changes. So this is bog standard, their starter kit template. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, it's an options 404. Okay, so this is a git clone of their repo, their starter kit repo, and we are trying to run messages. So we lost some of our logs here. They have the render state logging. Response end, no indication of an error. Let's add that back in just to make sure. Oh, so there's an error here. So we're getting nothing, but I know why we're getting nothing. Anyways, this is the developer experience right now. It's a black box. We are running into an error. It's not showing up in our on-error handler in the template. It's completely swallowing the error. It's not showing up in the UI. It's not showing up in the logs. It's a black box that we've given control over to OpenAI for, but that means we have the black box problems and we have no idea how to fix it. if you, let's see, I was expecting something else here. Let's take a look. So I don't know why this is erroring out actually. So it says this is valid, and I did get a different error previously, I'll be honest. What I was expecting was this error. This happened previously, is calendar agent got flagged for something, and it said it wasn't allowed. Let's see if we can recreate that. So I don't know if it's my authentication's wrong because of how the authentication works. I don't know if my token's expired. I don't know if the widgets aren't working correctly. I simply have no idea why we're getting this error, and there's no evidence, no indication of how to go solve for it. Earlier when I was running into this, it was because my calendar agent was getting flagged for this high stakes automated decision, and there's no recourse. You just have to change it. All right, so this is working now. Cool. So it seems like the error actually was that the UI for the agent builder removed my API key again, my Google authentication key, my access key, didn't provide me that feedback, and then there's nothing that says, hey, you have an MCP server that's erroring out somewhere because it can't access it. So this seems to be working now. Let's say, okay, now we're getting a different error. At least we're getting the error message though. Like, that's helpful. That at least tells me something's going on. We are now not getting the error message again though. So we just did test. We said, tell me about my events, and now we're just getting an error message. Nothing has changed. Let's refresh this. There we go. Okay. So now we have a workflow that's flagged, and you saw me. I didn't change anything about the workflow, but now it's getting flagged for the high stakes automated decisions, and it was published in production, and they flagged it, and now there's no recourse here, no indication of what I need to change. And the best I can tell is you just can't use the Google Calendar MCP server with a published workflow, which is fine, but it shouldn't be an option then. Like, I just can't use this workflow. So this now fails. This won't work. If we delete this tool, that we're done with the calendar, we never got to display our widget. That's a bummer. This widget looks so cool. I got it to display once earlier, but I can't get it to show up in the preview. I can't get it to show up in the AgentKit demo because I keep getting flagged. Let's delete it. Goodbye, Google Calendar. We are done with you. Let's just say, we'll change that, publish. So it's the same workflow ID, which is cool. We don't have it pinned anywhere, so it'll just keep using the latest production workflow ID. And we'll just say, hi. So there we go. So you could see what just happened here is we're getting our pirate greeting. It's doing this thinking. It's responding in that way. But what we had to do is we actually had to remove the calendar MCP. The Google Calendar MCP server just does not work right now. It's pretty bugged at essentially every layer, and there's no good feedback on why it's not working correctly. Removing it though, and this all starts working correctly with our workflow. Next, so we've done 2 agents so far. We did a classification agent. That one worked great. We have done a Google Calendar MCP agent, and it just doesn't work at all. Like, it broken at every point. The next thing we want to do is let's use a custom MCP server, see if we can get around the flagging from OpenAI, and see if we can connect to GitHub. To do that, we are going to create a custom MCP server, or we're going to connect to a custom MCP server rather. We're going to do plus server. It now gives a URL, label, description, and then a authentication method. And off screen, I have these MCP settings defined already. GitHub MCP. And for this one, we're going to use a custom header. And I'm just going to have to show this. I'll remove this GitHub personal access token afterwards before I publish this. So do not fret, my OPSEC folks. Again, there could be user error here, but I am using, let me see if I can pull it up. So we're sharing, that's not good. I am using let me switch my screen share, entire screen. I'm switching the screen share, show some code here. This is what I'm using. This is actually for the OpenAI real-time model. So this works great. GPT real-time, love it, awesome model. And we are using the same kind of setup here with like the authorization header, the server URL. We're actually even going to use the same personal access token. This is what it looks like. when connecting to the OpenAI real-time API, this works no issue. And I tested that before getting on the call because I want to make sure my token wasn't expired. So we're going to paste that in here, and we're going to connect. Nice little UI touch, love that. And what's cool here is we get all of the tools. I already know this is going to be an issue, so I'm just going to demo this. Let's say we want to get the issues, get issue comments. We now have our MCP set up. We're going to do never on the approvals. We want it to just always run. Let's add that. If we go back, okay, this looks good. Okay, let's try adding this header back in. Okay, I thought there was a UI bug there that I wanted to call out, but maybe not. Anyways, let's just select all of the tools. Make sure that that is still displaying what I think it will be displaying. We have the authorization header. Let's connect. Preview. Get my... Forgot that I saw the pirate instructions. Okay, so we should really change the name of it from calendar agent. So, okay, got my handle. So that's good. It got some information, actually. My connection. Okay, we got to get rid of this pirate talk. We'll do the next one. Want me to retry? Yes, please. So it pulled in some information. Let's give it the full repo URL. Okay. All right. It's actually working. That's pretty neat. I did not get this to work earlier. So this is, again, live recording coming off of some testing. Earlier, I just got this connection error. But it seems like with the right information, it was actually able to pull in the issues for that repo. So maybe we'll end up with a few more successes here than I initially thought. I'm sorry, that's me. I just keep clicking that back button. All right, so that's working. I wanted to remove a couple tools here. So this is part of the experience that I had earlier, which is sometimes it just doesn't work. And you know what? I bet now that I've been through this, it's just that the authorization is getting reset somehow. Maybe? Yeah, like what? Something's going on here. So that's actually helpful. So a lot of my complaints are downstream of something not persisting correctly. Okay, well, we know that we can get it kind of working then. That's cool. That is really neat. So let's publish it. Let's see what happens. And we got to rename this guy. I would love if this could work. I've been adjusting so many different ways of working with GitHub issues, and I think there's something there. GitHub fish. Let's give you should be able to just refresh. It should have the latest. I don't know what the hydration is there. So we're published. I'm not going to open the MCP server. Okay, I see that the get me failed due to session issues. Let me just restart the whole app here and just see if there's something going wrong. Classic. What do we have? Okay, so I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. Like, this is a custom GitHub MCP server. I've connected it, like, of my own volition, but I just can't get around that. So now the next step in my developer experience here is I want to go and change the approvals to not be all of them. So this is crazy. So now we're unable to load the tools. My thinking is maybe if I require approval for all tools, we can get around that flag. But I need to close that, reopen it. No, I don't do that. I need to reset my authorization value, update, click this. Now it'll load because that value is set properly. I'm going to set it to requiring all my tools. Require approval for all of the tools. We're publishing a new one. We're deploying straight to production. We have our production workflow. And real quick, before it flags, we can say, so we're in a race against time here. I'm not even going to mess with the get me tool first. I'm saying get my issues for this repo. Let's see if we can do it before the flag hits. You have access. All right. Well, we got one response in before the flag hit. I'm sure if I refresh this, there it is. Yeah, workflow version up violates our high stakes automated decision policy. And that's not communicated anywhere. Like, I have this production workflow and it just stops working and there is no indication. Let me see. Hopefully I don't have that on screen. Yeah, so I'll just show it. I don't mind. My apartment complex and my credit card are giving me some information, but there's nothing from OpenAI saying, hey, you have a production workflow that we just stopped letting run. It's just gone. And now, like, if I had this agent deployed on a website somewhere, it would stop working. There would only be these errors. They're super opaque. They don't provide you any information. There's no logging of the error that's happening. It should at least have this, like, if we go in ChatKit, we have this neat hook, use ChatKit. We have an API, it's getting this client secret. We should be able to get a message here, or maybe in the backend. Maybe that's where it's supposed to be. I haven't fully looked there. Let's do it. Let's see. We'll do some thinking coding. Bookslib app, where would this be? API route. API, this, I think actually just gets the session key, build JSON response. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I think this just creates the session. Yeah, it only logs out the session failure. So yeah, there we have it. I think like that's a big complaint, is where OpenAI is saying, create these agents here. It on the surface looks like it would be user friendly. It's surprisingly more technical than you'd expect out of a UI like this, and the complexity skyrockets as you try to use it. This experience is representative of the current state of AgentBuilder and ChatKit. Like, it's promising a lot, and it's promising it to non-technical users, and that just does not come through in the experience. If you go to build an agent, you can use built-in MCP servers that have a litany of connection errors. You can add your own MCP server, which also has those same connection errors. The odds that you get flagged by OpenAI, by OpenAI seem quite high. Like, I'm just trying to make an agent that has access to my own personal GitHub, and it gets flagged. And then when that flag happens, if you have a workflow deployed in production, it just breaks. There's no warning, no communication. It just stops working. And then it's impossible to debug. Like, unless you go back and look at the workflow specifically, you're not going to know that this errored out. And I only knew to look here because of my prior experience testing this. But there's no information in the application itself. And even when you go to like retry the error, like it says here in the ChatKit panel, note, the ChatKit UI handles errors for your users. You don't need to display errors on the UI. And it does display this nicely, but then you retry, like nothing, total silence. Yeah, my last comment there is like, this is like the UI builder is targeted at non-technical people. Like, that's what a UI like this is for, is it's for people that are not writing code generally, or that's at least what I would assume. But if you want to deploy the agent anywhere, like you need to be able to write the code. Claude could handle this, or Codex, excuse me. This is an OpenAI video after all. Okay, there we have it. Okay, to recap my final thoughts here, I just want to say again, like, kudos to the OpenAI team for shipping. Really impressed with a number of different parts of the Agent Builder experience. The UI is delightful. These widgets are so cool. I think that is going to be a really awesome standard in the future. The ChatKit builder, I think that's really neat. There's also some cool stuff like the classification agent that we built earlier in the video. That worked without issue. Though complaints that I thought that I had about that were actually my own, just using the product wrong, which, happens. The other agents I tried to build though ran into a ton of issues. There was issues with MCP servers connecting. There's UI issues where you have to reset the access token every time you edit the MCP server configuration. There's some really confusing parts about like the MCP server for Google Calendar or Google for Gmail needing to use this OAuth playground token instead of just like an actual OAuth connection, and those expire within the hour anyways. So I'm not really sure why they're included. I tried to add an external GitHub MCP server, and that ran into all the same issues. Just tons of connection issues, and it was also still flagged by OpenAI's policies. That's, in my opinion, clearly too strict. Like, that's just unworkable right now. And when the agent is deployed into production and it's integrated into ChatKit somewhere, if OpenAI flags that production workflow, it will just break the agent experience, which I think that's just untenable right now. There needs to be like an alert, or the check has to happen before it's deployed to production. It can't be deployed to production and then be turned off afterwards. Okay, Again, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, this was a full live review. There's some stuff that I learned along the way that I wasn't expecting. There was a ton of issues that we ran into, which is what we were hoping to document and be able to provide feedback to the team on. And just as a closing note, I want to say, like, the feedback here is coming from a place of love and wanting to see this product succeed. I've built a workflow builder before, shut that startup down previously before moving on to what I'm doing now. But I love this. I love the concept. I think it's going to be great. I have full confidence in the team that they're going to fix all of the issues that myself and potentially other users are providing. But I'm here to provide the feedback so that way they know what to fix, and that way we can use it as a product. So thank you so much. I am so excited for the next iteration of AgentBuilder and ChatKit. I hope the OpenAI team finds this feedback useful, and it is coming from a place of I want to use the product. I just want it to work a little bit better than it currently does. So thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.